Pescadora.
Hey, this is Alexandra Kelly.
Yo, we're talking to plants.
I'm Secret Mountain.
Hey, we're Have a Good Season.
Hi, we're Everything Ever. And
Hey, we're the Swim.
Hey, we're Ashes Terrain. You listen to
WP 88.7
Brave New Radio.
are you brave enough?
WPSC-FM 88.7, Wayne, New Jersey.
Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network. Brave New Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Of the Reading Circle, and if you've been listening any amount of time, you know we have a morning ritual and routine that we follow. And for those of you listening for the first time, again, good morning and welcome to you. So that morning routine is I read from two books to kind of kick the show off, open things up, set a positive tone, as well as I provide you with the weather. Then I'll read the bio of my guest. We'll take a short pause for the cause, and then we'll come back straight into our interview. So that kind of sets up the agenda early on in the show. So we're going to do just that. I'm going to let you know what's going on with the weather. You can expect it to be here in the New York, New Jersey area, 77 degrees today as a high, 64 as a low. We have a 20% chance of rain. And then for tomorrow, Sunday, expect clouds in the AM, 83% as a high, 59 degrees as a low, still 20% chance of rain on Sunday. And then as we roll on into Monday, it's going to be sunny all day long, 70%, 70 degrees. We're going up to moving to a low of 47, 10% chance of rain on Monday. And then on Tuesday, expected to be 76 as a high, 52 as a low, sunny all day, 0% chance of rain. The same for Wednesday, except we'll be a couple of degrees lower, sunny all day on Wednesday, 72 degrees as a high, 48 degrees as a low, with a 10% chance of rain. Well, that is the weather brought to you right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. And again, I read from two books. One is called What Can Happen When We Pray. The second is called Until Today by Iyanla Vanzant. So today for September the 20th, it says, God is with us. Today's prayer: God of love and care, thank you for words of your everlasting presence. Help me to spread the message that you desire to be present with all of your children. Amen. Today's reflection: everyone listened and was on one accord when the prophet Haggai told the community why they were experiencing so much hardship. It was because they had placed their needs ahead of God. By neglecting to care for God's temple first and tending to their needs second, God was not pleased with their priorities. However, the people were obedient to the prophet's warning and changed their ways. God desires to have top priority in our lives. If the Lord isn't first in your life, the time is now to make God the top priority. That's from the book What Can Happen When We Pray, from Iyanla Vanzant's book Until Today for September the 20th. She says, I experience and express the power of trust because there is a divine place to put anything that challenges me. Do you have a God jar? If you don't, you should. A God jar is an actual jar, much like the old jars you have stashed away in the kitchen or basement. That's right. There is now a divine use for that old mayonnaise, pickle, or jelly jar that you have been holding on to. That jar can be transformed into a divine healing tool. All you have to do is wash the jar, dry it out, and find the lid for it. If you are so inclined, you can decorate the jar. It's up to you. Just know, with a God jar, all of your worries will soon be over. Now, here's how the God jar works. You must first prioritize all of the duties, responsibilities, and desires you are working on or working through. Once you have your lists, choose one that you are going to work on. Anything you are not working on goes into the God jar. The way you put them into the God jar is to write them down, using as few words as possible. Write each item on a separate sheet of paper. Avoid the temptation to tell God how you want the situation to unfold. Place the sheets of paper into the God jar. Through the day and for days to come, should the situations come to mind, simply remind yourself God is taking care of it. If for some reason a God jar situation remains unsolved or builds up pressure, write it down again. Be sure that once you put something in the God jar, you do not try to fix it on your own. You will be guided and directed about what to do next. Until today, you may have had a way to deal with the mounting pressures, or should I say, you may not have had a way to deal with the mounting pressure of certain situations in your life. Just for today, make a God jar for yourself. Use it as a way to surrender some of the things that you are unable to address in this moment. Today, I am devoted to realizing that when I can't do something, God can. Now, in both of those passages, and they're totally unrelated, written at two different times, two different book companies, copyrighted two different, but many times they will line up. And if you heard the word priority in both of those passages, so maybe that'll be our word for the day. If I were to be in school, maybe priority will be our word for the day. Well, our guest is on the line. She is on tap. I'm going to introduce her now, and then we'll share some information with you, and then we will get on into our interview. Let somebody know the Reading Circle is on the air. My guest this morning is DuEwa Frazier. She is a writer, author, educator, and award-nominated poet. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. She is the author of the newly released young adult novel, Deanne in the Middle. DuEwa is also the author of Goddess Under the Bridge, Poems, 2013. 10 Marbles and a Bag to Put Them In, Poems for Children, 2010. Stardust Tracks on a Road, 2005. And Shedding Light from My Journeys, 2002. She is the editor and publisher of the NAACP Image Award nominated in Outstanding Literary Work Poetry Anthology, Check the Rhyme, an anthology of female poets and Emcees, July 2006, featuring the work of 50 internationally and nationally known women's poets. Check the Rhyme also received nominations from Writer's Digest, Publishing Award, and African American Literary Award show. She founded Lit Noir Publishing in 2002 and has produced numerous literary and performance events featuring poets, authors, and musicians across New York City and other locations such as Baltimore, Atlanta, Berkeley, and Philadelphia. DuEwa has been called a gifted poet. Her poetry has been published in Essence Magazine, Reverie Journal, Quell Journal, Tidal Basin Review, Poetry and Performance, Drum Voices Review, Black Arts Quarterly, X Magazine, and other publications. In 2005, she featured in the documentary film Rhyme and Reason. She has been a featured poet, author, and speaker at art venues, conferences, schools, and colleges, including NCTE Annual College and Composition Conference, Temple University, University of Pennsylvania's Kelly Writers House, Harlem Book Fair, Queens Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library, La Pepitone, Bronx Museum, Center for Black Literature, West Virginia Wesleyan College, Bohemian Caverns, La Peña Cultural Arts Center, Charis Books, Legacy Books, Howard University Bookstore, the Yale Club, Human Bookstore, Indianapolis Book Fest, Capitol Book Fest, the Shrine, Bowery Poetry Club, the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, CCNY Poetry Festival, and many others. DuEwa has been profiled in about a Book Mondays blog, OE Books blog, Conscious Discussions blog, Femix.com, St. Louis Argus newspaper, St. Louis American newspaper, rolling out Urban Style Weekly, The Avenue magazine, Booking Matters magazine, Spoken Visions magazine, and others. As a journalist, her work has featured in FreshGoddess.com, MyBrownBaby.com, Mosaic Magazine, AALBC.com, AllHipHop.com, DavyD.com, Mahogany Butterfly Online, eZine articles, and others. She is the host and producer of Rhymes, Views, and News Talk Radio, an internet radio show featuring authors, poets, actors, and other arts professionals. DuEwa is a longtime arts advocate, cultural organizer, and member of the artist community. She has collaborated and hosted programs for the notable poets, authors, and speakers. As an educator, DuEwa has served public schools as a teacher, team leader, we have a lot in common, specialist, and consultant. She has taught adult basic education for adult learners and facilitated parent, library, and professional development workshops. She has a special interest in literacy initiatives for schools, and libraries, writing programs for youth, digital writing, cultural arts programs, and promoting diversity in children's book publishing. DuEwa is the founder of Literacy Success Partners Educational Services, and she earned the Bachelor of Arts degree in English at Hampton University, Pirates, the M.Ed degree in Curriculum and Teaching at Fordham University, the MFA degree in Creative Writing at the New School, and the Ed Master's degree in Educational Leadership at Columbia University. All right, DuEwa, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I am well, thanks. And after reading that bio, even better.
If I had known, I would have sent you a totally shortened bio.
But you know what? That's okay. I like to do the long versions because I like that to be an inspiration or an encouragement for someone who may be listening. They have the opportunity to hear, well, you know what, if DuEwa can do it, you know what, maybe I will get up off my backside and go out and try to do something as well. So, and don't mind me because I get crazy. But yeah, I mean, I hope it's an inspiration for someone who's listening to say, wow, if she's able to do all that, I think I can do whatever it is I'd like to try to do as well. So congratulations on all of that.
Thank you so much.
And
as you started your show with a scripture, I must say I give honor and praise to God because it's not me, it's Him.
Well, this is true because I do the same thing, and I always tell the folks I've opened a show like that for years, and I always tell them that's not the opportunity I'm taking per se to try to proselytize or to try to preach or to try to convert anybody. But at the same time, what I found is by doing that, it sets a positive spirit, and the rest of the morning just flows.
Yes, that's right.
And there has been mornings where information and get on all your social media networks and let someone know that DuEwa Frazier is on the air with me on the Reading Circle. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to Hootsuite and I'm going to tap it in real quick while I'm sharing this with you and let everybody know they need to be tuning in right now to the Reading Circle on gobrave.org. And if they're in the northern New Jersey area, they can tune in on WP 88.7 FM.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't seen your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff.
Yes, indeed you are. You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley. We're heard live each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. to 7 o'clock a.m. And then we follow up with the good news and song, unless we're doing a double or a triple header of The Reading Circle. But other than that, in the 7 o'clock hour, you will hear the gospel music, the good news and song. So my guest this morning is DuEwa Frazier. And DuEwa, I don't have a set pack list of questions, if you will, but I usually start off as very conversational. But one of the first questions I usually ask is kind of where did the writing begin? So is that something you did as a child? Did you always love it, or if it's something you took on in college, or where did the whole writing, and if there's a connection to reading at all?
Sure. Well, my earliest memory of really enjoying writing was at the age of 9. I actually entered what my school called the Martin Luther King. I think a lot of schools had this. I don't know if they still do, but we always had a Dr. Martin Luther King essay contest for, elementary students, and I entered it, and I won. And I always, from that point, I remember writing in a journal every day. I didn't call it a diary because it was like I would just get a random notebook and just write my thoughts. And over the years, from elementary school on through middle and high school, I often wrote little stories or what I thought might have been poetry. It wasn't really formed or structured, but just a lot of little notes and observations and song lyrics, and sometimes I do drawing and sketching. But what I believe fueled my writing is the fact that I'm from a family of educators. My mom is a retired educator, my grandmother, my cousins. So, learning was year-round for me. The library was my second home. On Saturdays, we went to the library, and we would get a bunch of books to read throughout the week and through the summer. I always had a extensive library of different books. My parents were into giving me books of poetry and diverse children's books, multicultural books. And so I remember reading a lot. I enjoyed reading. And then I became an English major in college. So that just kind of further layered my passion for writing and reading. And by the time I graduated from college, I felt that I really wanted to pursue writing. More so, I thought, with journalism. And I envisioned that I would eventually become a published children's writer. And at the time, I didn't know how to do that, but I just, figured one small step would lead, to another. So I became a teacher, but then I also started doing freelance writing, and I had a stint where I interned at a newspaper and wrote, journalistic articles. So that's really my early beginnings with writing.
Well, I noticed you said that books were always around in the home and that reading was encouraged. I also heard you say that you did a lot of writing in terms of your journal, which when I put that together means you had a fervent imagination, which for many, too many, I'm not saying no children have imaginations. Actually, they do. They just use them the wrong way. But I'm not saying no children have imaginations, but I think a lot of our children's imaginations have been diminished because of our technology. And a lot of us who grew up prior to some of this technology being about make the assumption there's not a whole lot of reading going on in there. And I made a bad assumption, but I don't think so. So in any event, where I'm going with that is, and even the impetus for this show, we were talking about that a little bit before we went on the air, was to increase folks' reading time, to enhance and increase their love for reading. And the hope is that as we introduce the various books and literary works of the authors, that it will pique the curiosity of folks to say, you know what, I'm going to get that book. I'm going to download that book. I'm going to go to the bookstore. I'm going to order it or whatever. And then I'm going to read it. Not only am I going to do all that, but I'm going to read it. And that's the hope that as folks listen to you all share your work, that will happen, that it will translate, well, A, into sales for you, but secondly, exposure for you, because the other piece of it is folks who are artists generally are not always worried about the dollar. They're more concerned with getting their work exposed.
Right. That's true.
So talk to me a little bit about, because you went to some powerful big-name schools here. We're talking Hampton, we're talking Columbia, what was all that like for you?
Wow. Well, I got to start with my alma mater, Hampton University. That's where it all started, as they say. It was a great experience for me, undergrad. I met some really great people who I'm still friends with today. I had some wonderful professors, particularly I was very close to my English professors. I really feel like I learned how to write at Hampton. And so I have to give Hampton props because that was my foundation, other than my family being educators and giving me the basics. I wrote for the school newspaper, the Hampton Script, and I also did an internship with the public relations office called the University Office of University Relations at Hampton University, and I had a hand in helping to disseminate press releases and coordinate events, and so that gave me a whole nother layer to my back communications at, starting at Hampton. So that was my foundation, and then I attended Fordham in New York, and then followed by the New School and followed by Columbia. And I have to say that I'm going to be honest. I was really the schools and programs that I attended and completed. I think they were just right for me. I can't speak for. I would never say, "Oh, well, these are the schools that you have to attend." And I think I got what I needed for my background as an educator and writer at those particular schools. But I really feel that my foundation was from Hampton. Hampton it's so hard. I don't know if you've ever heard people say this, but like one of the mottos of Hampton is, an education for life. There's so many people that come out of Hampton in various industries who are just so excellent at what they do, whether they are in media or whether they become an attorney or whether they become a teacher. It's like Hampton gives you a certain, you may already be like that, but I think that it just instills a certain pride and discipline in you for what it is you really want to do in life. And they just really instilled in us that, we are sort of like for those who, what is the saying, for those who are, much is expected out
of those who get much is required.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And so you get that, and you get that you're in a certain population who is expected to uplift your community. It's not enough for you to just be educated and have a title and a fancy degree. What are you doing with that to help others?
Absolutely.
So I really feel...
See, I can't laugh this morning because I have a cold, so that'll make me start coughing. But yes, that is always the, like you were at Hampton? You were at the Mecca. But in any event, it is a wonderful school, one of the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities.
That's true.
And because I have a daughter now who's at Delaware State. I have two that graduated. Well, she's a junior, and she has another year and a half. And I have my oldest daughter graduated from there already. And
congratulations!
So, thank you. But yeah, we had the opportunity to see a good number of the HBCUs. Morgan. I've been down to Spelman, been down to Clark, been down to Morehouse, been down. I'm like, that's why as I'm reading your bio, I'm looking at the commonalities, and I don't know if every educator is that way, or is there because I just have this feeling that most of the time educators just like education. So for me, just going, it's funny, educators like educators. But just for me, just going on a college campus, I just get inspired, just being in the educational setting.
It's true.
It really is. So, all right, we're going to take a short information sharing time because, like I said, break connotates, go away, and I don't want folks to go away. I want you to stay near your computer or your radio, whatever you're listening to us on. And again, let somebody know that we're having a fantastic, inspirational interview with DuEwa Frazier, and we're going to move into how she's come about putting her various works together, because we're working our way to that, giving you a little bit of educational background, history, so forth and so on. So let someone know that we're on the air, and I'm going to share this with you, and we're going to continue along.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I started going cold turkey. Well, at least when I'm in the car.
I know I shouldn't do it, but it's so hard to stop.
That's why I hide it from myself, so I won't be tempted.
I used to do it all the time. I stopped by locking it in my glove compartment.
My friend used to do it way too much. Now I turn it off when we're in the car.
My solution is simple. I just don't do it.
There are lots of ways to stop yourself and others from texting and driving. How will you stop? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Reading Circle on WP 88.7 FM.
Listen to Brave New Radio on your smartphone with TuneIn Radio.
That's right. You can take the Reading Circle anywhere you go. There's a few ways to do that. One is to go through the TuneIn app, but the other is you can download the Reading Circle app onto your phone, and it will give you bridges to everything. You can hear the show wherever you can go. You can see pictures. You can actually hear the archives of previous interviews. So there's a lot. And the thing is, the app is free. So if you go to iTunes, if you go to Amazon or Google and you put in the Reading Circle, you can download the app. There's a whole bunch of information about the show there. So I encourage you to do that. So if you're away from your home for whatever reason at 6 o'clock in the morning, you have the opportunity to still hear it on your mobile device. My guest this morning is DuEwa Frazier. Now, DuEwa, I'm big on nameology, if that's such a word. But where I'm going is the meanings of names. Is there a particular meaning to DuEwa?
It is an African name. It's a West African name. I generally don't disclose that. It's because it's personal. Okay. But it is an African name.
Okay. So there is some meaning behind it. There is a definition to it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, and again, being in education, unfortunately, I have too many of my parents that are trying to sound fancy and they just slam letters together. And then if you ask the child, is there a meaning to that? Either A, they're clueless of it, or B, there really is none. It's just that the parent was trying to sound fancy. So that's why I always ask.
Thank you.
And because I am interested in that, because I remember whenever my children were in the womb, for the entire 9 months, every night we had the name book out. Until we finally settled, and I wanted the names to have meaning, and I wanted them to flow. I didn't want them to sound like it was just a bunch of words slammed together. So I wanted them to flow. So my oldest daughter, her name is Aria, because I'm a musician, and so after scouring, I came up with Aria because Aria was, it was usually the soprano love song in an opera, or either it's a ballad or whatever. So then her middle name was Monique, which was like counselor, teacher, or what have you. And of course the last name was Medley, which means you can do a lot of things or a combination of things or whatever. So her name was Aria Monique Medley. Then when the second one came along, she was Niara, which is an African name as well as Swahili. And Niara means of high purpose. So she was Niara Simone. So Niara Simone Medley. So it was like I'm big into names. So when I see one that's unique, I always ask, is there a meaning behind it? So okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit in terms of now you've kind of you've done your writing as a child in terms of your poetry, gone to school. When did you make the decision? You know what? I want to publish.
Okay, I would say in the late 90s, I had. It was after college, and I started writing children's stories. And this was at a time where, the internet existed, but of course it's not what it is today with social media or even with email, because I began researching literary agents, and at that time you just had to mail a submission. There was no email, a query, and all of that. And also at that time, Little Bill, the Nickelodeon cartoon featuring an African-American boy created by Bill Cott, or I got no response at all. So, I went through that for a few years, and by that time I was, I moved, my family is from St. Louis. I was born in Brooklyn but raised in the Midwest. So after I graduated from Hampton, I went home briefly to the Midwest, and then I moved to New York. So I was in New York at the time, and before I started teaching in New York, I got a job in PR. They were looking for people with a writing background, and so I was actually, very ironically, hired to be a book publicist to actually represent authors who are with really big publishing companies. And so from that job, I actually learned how to write really strong pitch letters and press releases for authors, and I learned a lot about promoting books. So very interesting that I was a writer who really wanted to be published, but I got a job in PR, and that work ended up helping me when it came time for me to self-publish. So my first book was self-published in 2002, armed with my own savings and knowledge from, my PR gig and knowledge from being rejected for a few years from agents. I, gained the information I needed to publish myself, basically.
It's funny because you described what it was like prior to kind of like self-publishing being as simple as it is for us to do. Because there was a time, for those of you in the listening audience, depending on how old you are, there was a traditional route where, exactly as DuEwa shared, you had to mail off your manuscript and you hope and pray that you even get a response. And most of the time the response was a rejection. But you knew that for every rejection, eventually someone was going to say yes. And the funny thing is, it's a catch-22. It's like when you're young and you're trying to get a job, or either young and trying to establish credit. Well, we won't give you that until you get it. Well, how am I going to get it if no one gives it to me? It's kind of like...
No one gives it.
Right.
Exactly.
So she says, all right, they say, all right, you need to get your name published under your belt. Okay, well, I need someone to help me get my name published so that you'll be under my belt. But I'm also, as you know, we kicked the show off with the reading from the books. I do truly believe in God, and I also believe in the law of attraction, which I believe falls under God like everything else. And that being said, is once you've set your mind to do something, and once it's truly locked on, it's kind of like that laser in a fighter jet. Once it's truly locked on, the things start flowing to you. And so the fact that you already knew this is what I want to do, that's how you wound up being the PR person, because that was all a part of the plan to get you where you needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't find that strange. You're right. I don't find it strange at all. I really don't. I mean, there are certain times in my life I could tell people stories of when I truly saw the hand of God move. And it's like there are times whenever you just know human mind could not have put the circumstances together to work that well.
You.
So the fact that you're saying, I wanted to write a book, I'd already started being rejected, folks were telling me to get experience, now I wind up writing the PR for other authors.
Yes.
I mean,
Mark, and there's more.
I'm sure.
At that time, I have to tell you this, and this is for your listeners who've had naysayers in their lives, and people tell them, well, how are you going to do that? Well, you've never seen anyone do it. You didn't go to school for that. I had a family member tell me I would never publish a book. They told me most people live and die and never see that dream happen. I had people, my peers, who probably thought I was pretty strange, who were like, why are you leaving the Midwest? Why are you going to New York? No one can see your dream really but you and your creator. So what you're saying is so on point, because literally no one in my life could help me do what I knew was upon me to do. No one who loved me, no friend, no peer, no one could help me because they had never seen it done.
Correct.
Or they didn't know anyone who had done it.
Correct. And the funny thing is about those of us who, because this is the thing with that. Many people want to launch out and do things, but either because of fear or naysayers or whatever, they just don't. And then there are those of us that like, I don't care what you say. This is what I feel inside of me. This is what I'm going to do. I don't care if you look at me strange. And I laugh when you say look at me strange. My guess is as we were kids, as readers, people thought we were strange. Like, you're a kid and you like books. You're a kid and you like to read. You're a kid and you like to write. I mean, so I think people have probably been thinking, those of us who've gone down that road, strange to begin with. But nevertheless, I mean, because I have done some about faces and people just thought was really off, but it was like, that's what my heart wanted to do, and that's what I did. So even becoming back in education was one of them. I had a corporate career as well, and I left that for a little while. Signal, or whenever I'm trying to do something. Last week in my church, we were doing a book study, and I wanted to use a YouTube video, and the video was like a 27-minute video, and the thing just kept sitting there buffering. It was like worrying the daylights out of me. But in any event, where I'm going with the technology piece is, at this point, you can go step by step with the technology and do it yourself.
It's true.
And that's where we are in 2014, that you don't have to necessarily worry about the rejection letters because you can do your own thing. The only thing I always caution folks, because I do my own thing as well, is that we have to make sure our work has the same quality as if it had gone through a publishing house. Because that's the only, because I've seen some really shoddy self-publishing work. Folks just doing any old thing just to get it out there, not realizing they're hurting themselves. So as long as we maintain the quality of a major publishing house, it is a beautiful thing to be able to go in and do your own thing. So, and you chose children's books. Now, how did that decision, did you choose that decision based on the fact that you were working with children, or was it the other way around? Well, I always loved children. That's how I wound up working with them anyway. I mean, what drove that genre?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, by the time I graduated, I remember one of my friends graduation week asking me, DuEwa, what are you going to do? And among my goals, I said, I'm going to become a children's author. I really think what I thought was, you know, I was so inspired by those writers, by Virginia Hamilton and by June Jordan and all of those great writers, that I wanted to become that. I wanted to inspire children. And I had an imagination, and you know, because I didn't watch a whole lot of TV as a kid, so, you know, that just spurs your imagination like crazy. And I just decided that's what I was going to do, in addition to writing poetry. So, and that's all. And that's before I became a teacher. So,
you know, it's always better to catch it live. That's where I'm going. But I'm going to share this information with you, and then we'll be right back with my special guest, DuEwa Frazier.
They thought they could stop me. They thought they could hold me down. But boy, did they think wrong. Cause I'm here. And now that I'm here, I'ma keep giving y'all the illest mix you've ever heard. From executive producer Diamonds comes the illest show on radio. Starring multi-award winner Diamonds. Every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Brave New Radio. Club Melting Pot. Only on WP 88.7 FM.
I tell you all each week, I'm going to catch up with Diamonds one of these weeks. I love his promo. I really do. We all have the opportunity to make promos for our shows. And that's Diamonds for Club Melting Pot. I love his music. I love him writing to deal with kids who, like, that's the furthest thing from their mind.
Sure. Well, I'd have to say the last 2 years of my career, I've been a literacy specialist, and then I also do other programs, and previously an English teacher for middle and high school students. And I must tell you, honestly, I have always faced a myriad of different experiences, ups and downs, and some challenges with supporting children to embrace literacy. I think that the challenge has been twofold. One, you mentioned one, because we're so highly digitized, but for our kids, they're digitized in a way that's for social and recreational means, not always for educational purposes. And I understand, you know, through marketing and what parents allow children to do, that's, you know, just what has occurred. That's what I have faced. But within that, you do always have children that have a natural love for reading and writing. It's just innate. They just gravitate toward it, and they just need more people around them, pushing them and encouraging them in that, you know, in that vein.
Absolutely. And you know, it's funny because you're absolutely correct. That runs the gamut. And I had a teacher come to me the other day. She said, Mr. Medley, a parent told me, supplies are expensive. And, you know, I have a smart mouth. I really do. And the older I get, the smarter it gets. And so my immediate response back to her was, well, so are Jordans. And then I took it to the next level, and so is ignorance. My point is, it's right. It's back to priority again. That was our word for the day, if you will, is priority. It really is back to priorities. And my kids know I am straight up with them. The parents know, and I really don't care if they like it or not, because I know in the grand scheme, in the bigger picture, particularly whenever the community I serve is predominantly African American and Hispanic.
Right.
I know the bigger picture, that I know where Jordan's is not going to take them, but I know where the books will.
That's right.
So I am dogmatic on that. And the truth of the matter is, our kids, at least the kids I serve, they really don't read well. And I am a firm believer that reading, and that's where the show came from, reading is the foundation of every other subject. And I'm not taking anything away from math. I'm not taking anything away from any other, but the foundation, the underpinning, the undergirding to all of it is to being able to read and comprehend. And I believe with Common Core and everything else, they've come to that realization as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're putting this big emphasis on working with text and reciting and going back and citing where did the author say that, and
providing evidence.
Exactly. That's why they went down that road, because reading is the core. I do believe once you get like the child that you said, as a matter of fact, it's been my experience, the child for them that's the natural knack, if you will, those are the ones that really tend to succeed in all the rest of their classes.
It's true. Because
they have the reading skill, they have the, and because a lot of people think, whenever I usually say, our children don't read well, and Mr. Medley, I know how to read. I said, I'm not talking about just the calling off of words. I'm not talking about just decoding. I'm talking about your being able to understand what the author meant, and then in your own words come back and say, what did that mean to me? What did I get out of that? What was their thinking behind it? That's what I'm talking about when I say don't read well. Yeah, you may be able to call off the words, and that's a may. But in terms of really understanding what was the author trying to get you to understand, that's where we lack.
It's true.
So your children's books, are they character books or are they poetry books? Or both?
Okay, well, I have one. I just have two. My other books are poetry, I would say primarily for adults and maybe younger adults. But my first children's book, 10 Marbles in a Bag to Put Them In, is a collection of children's poetry, primarily for students aged 7 to 12. And I even did a program where a 4-year-old child understood the poems in the book. She couldn't read the words, but as I asked my workshop group questions, she was in a workshop with her 12-year-old brother. This 4-year-old could comprehend the words she heard, and could infer and all of that. So this book could be for younger, kids as well. So that's the collection. And then my recent book is a young adult, or rather teen novel, I would say for upper middle school and high school students, and that's titled Deanne in the Middle.
So in terms of, because, all right, now there's reading. There's one thing to get kids into
activities and questions. And I've noticed when I've shared this book with all students, they all gravitate toward different aspects of the book. But mainly, if they can relate to the message in a poem and just you rolling it out in a very engaging manner for them and giving them a number of activities to do along with it, in addition to some writing and reading comprehension, you can hook the kids, whether it's poetry or a chapter book.
Correct.
So, yeah.
I agree. No, go ahead. I agree. It's all in the delivery. It really is.
It's in the delivery.
It is.
In how you hook them, my novel is, chapters. It's over 20 chapters. I have gotten some feedback from some teen readers, and one of the things they said to me was one student said that she enjoyed the book because she could relate to the character, and by the end of the book, she felt like the character was a role model for her. I was like, whoa, that blew me away.
That's a good feeling.
So, yeah, that was great feedback.
That is good. I mean, it's hard to put that kind of feeling in a word whenever a student expresses back to you something they've gotten out of work that you've written or taught, because that's really what it's all about, and that's what we're striving for. And it's interesting because I saw something in the bio we were reading about hip hop, and a lot of times the kids don't connect the fact that a lot of rap and hip hop really is poetry.
Yes.
They don't connect it. It's until you say, did you realize that rap, that actually is a poem?
It's true.
What? Mister? That's right. You know, so especially when the boys start talking, I can't do that poetry stuff, that sissy, this, that. So you rap, don't you? Yeah, Miss Melly, we rap. All right, that's poetry. It's just a different type. But it's still poetry. So it is, going back to what you said, how you hook them.
Yes.
Now, have you done spoken word venues? Because each week, because this is like, usually it's interesting. A lot of my authors at some point in their career are the stage or either.
One of my favorite poems titled Blues River. No one ever swims in the river where cobblestones disappear, where Oshun waits for honey and cinnamon, holding her mirror up for you to catch a glimpse of your reflection in the waves. Payeye for a love blessing. No one ever swims in the river that separates St. Louis from East St. Louis. Don't be caught in East Boogie after dark. You do, you better come strapped. No one ever swims in the water traveling from Louisiana to Minnesota like ancestors during the Great Migration. Mississippi songs called blues floating on the backs of traveling souls, creating a world from hope. No one ever swims in the mighty Mississippi River unless to get swept away in time and never return. So that's Blues River.
All right, now here we go. Now, this is not my hand clapping, folks. These are finger snaps. All right. See, that's how we applaud poetry. I'm sitting there listening to it. That's it. And see, you're right. And I'm listening to you and could visualize that. So I know if it's one, like when you write for the children, you have visuals with it, they certainly can get that. But I was just listening to it. I kind of closed my eyes. I had the background music going. I was listening to you. Yeah, I could visualize that.
That's right.
Well, where can folks get a copy of your work? Because I always give the last few minutes, the last 4 or 5 minutes or so to the author. They can do shout-outs. They can do where the book signings they're going to be, any websites folks can go to order the book, download it, or however it's available. You can say everything except the dollar figure, but anything else you are free to promote.
Oh, sure. Well, all of my books are available via Amazon.com. It's a reputable place to order books. So I just read from Goddess Under the Bridge poems, and my new teen novel is also available at Amazon, Deanne in the Middle. And then I also have the children's book of poems, 10 Marbles in a Bag to Put Them In, Poems for Children. There are no curse words in my books in terms of no vulgarity, so the books are accessible. And
all right. Well, I thank you for rising early. Now, oddly enough, or maybe it's not odd actually, but the authors and guests that I have there in the New York area, if I know where your events might be, every now and again I do pop in. So I'll be checking your site to see what library you might be at or whatever. And you never know, you may see me pop up. And,
great. Well, Mark, now that I have your email address, I'll certainly send you, personal invites.
All right. That'll work. If those that are in the area, I usually try to meet face to face. As I said prior to us going on the air, I've had the opportunity to meet some wonderful people through this show over the 13-year run. And many we haven't met face to face, but we've met on the telephone or whatever, and we stay in contact with each other through email or social media. And it's just been a wonderful thing in terms of networking and contacts. And again, I thank you, as a fellow educator, as graduated, an alumni of the Mecca, and from Columbia, from Fordham, and all the other schools. Congratulations to that.
And you know what? Principal Medley, if 2015, after your standardized testing, you should want to have an author to come in and speak to your students, let me know.
Oh, will do. Because like I said, it's always funny to see the reaction on the kid's face whenever you bring a book in, particularly if you have your picture either on the inside or outside flap. It's funny to see the kids look at you and look at the picture, and they can't believe they're meeting the person that wrote that.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, what? This is your book? Yes, this is my book. That's you. That's you. I met, I remember years ago doing that, and the kids would, they would literally flip out there. Wow, I met, right. Like if I walk in Barnes & Noble, if I walk in, I see your book, I met that person. And the funny thing is, I'm kind of like that too. I was in Georgia a couple of years ago visiting my mother, and we went to Walmart. Excuse me. And sure enough, we go to the book section, and I walk up on some books of folks I've interviewed, and I'm like, Mom, I've spoke to that author. I've interviewed that author. That author has been on the show. So yeah, it's so yeah, by all means, you are more than welcome. We can make that happen for sure, because it is always a unique and exciting experience for me and the kids, really, to be able to physically see the person who put that together.
Yes, that would be great. And thank you so much, Mark, for having me on your show. It's been great to talk with you.
Same here. I mean, for the listening audience, I share with you all the time. We put these shows together months in advance. And it's funny how quick the time flies. Like we may have booked this in May or June for like a September date, and you're like, wow, September seemed like a long time away. But the time goes so quick. Like right now, I'm booking folks for December, January, February of 2015, and it's like it seems like it's a long time away, but it is amazing how quick that time flies.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for rising. I wish you nothing but the best, and we will certainly be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, and be well.
Thank you. You do the same.
Okay.
All right. Take care now.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Well, that brings us to another end or conclusion of the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. That was my guest this morning, DuEwa. I mean, there's just something about saying that. I mean, DuEwa. DuEwa Frazier. And that was my guest this morning, educator, as well as author and many other talents as well. She's been recognized by so many different venues. Again, if you go there to her website, it is DuEwa, DuEwa, and once you go in there, you just have to click, because when you get there, it may seem like, well, what do I do now? Just click, and then it'll open up to you. That's why it's called DuEwa World. So just go in there, you'll get the home page, which is orange and white. It's a graphic design, and it'll look like it's just sitting there, but click, and then it opens up to the various tabs within the page. It has various books, it has children's books, so if you have children or if you're into poetry, by all means, support DuEwa and her effort. Well, we're going to roll on over into the gospel music, the good news in song. Don't you dare move. Let somebody know that we are on the air.